So is happiness the highest state of enlightenment? No, it's not. Happiness is more on the emotional level, at the causal level, subject to causality. Contentment is something that is not dependent on this or that. Contentment is already, in terms of self-realization, a transcendent quality, not dependent on phenomena, on circumstances. Now, try to feel into this. If you feel content, isn't it already a big victory and even more permanent than circumstantial happiness? The real contentment is that state of indifference to the phenomena, to what comes and goes. And if you are content regardless of what comes and goes, it is already 100 times bigger than happiness. When we say the word happiness, it already touches certain chakras, energy centers. Therefore, it naturally touches the emotional body, the heart area, the solar plexus being not obscured. It touches the other chakras being in balance and not worried about anything else. And since every word is a frequency, happiness resonates with the emotional body. Every word has a frequency. And we use mantras to meditate upon these words, sacred words. So happiness is an emotion which is very lovely when everything is well. It's, of course, very beautiful. But as soon as something is not so well, happiness starts to go away. And it gets replaced by hope. So hope and happiness are a hamster wheel of society. We know the usual cycle of life. As you are a kid, you want to grow up. That is a hope to grow up, to be more happy. As you're a teenage, you want to disappear, hope to be happy. As you are young adult, you want to get a good degree, get a good job to be happy. When you do get a job, reality hits you. You realize that job is not going to make you happy, even if it was your dream job. And for a while, it was wonderful. But after a couple of years, it wears off. Then, of course, one turns to relationships, whether also bodily happiness, financial happiness. The whole society is driven by this emotion and even more driven by hope of happiness. If we reflect in the whole society, how much of the time people are actually happy and how much of the time people are actually in a hope of happiness, we will see that probably it's 95 to 5% ratio. something like that. 5% sometimes happy on occasions, 95% hoping for happiness to come. So that doesn't work so well. Enlightenment will give me happiness. Let's seek for enlightenment to be happy. That's a very big motivation for the beginners, for the newbies. However, when we come to realize ourselves more and more, there are other things that become more important, such as love. The first quality that outpoured from the source, God consciousness, was love. So love goes many levels higher than happiness. So love of God is a more real deal. Love of the self, love of divine. And that's why now we know that there are many traditions, Vishnu traditions, Bhakti traditions, devotional traditions that are purely focused on this love of divine, love of God. And that works. Do you know any yogic lineage focused on happiness of God? Not explicitly so. The word Satchitananda means existence, consciousness, bliss. So bliss is 100,000 million times bigger than happiness. Then love too, divine love, love of God, love of self at the highest levels is also millions of times bigger than happiness. When you feel love, nothing else is needed. When you're in love with divine self, beloved, when you are that love as divine beloved, nothing else is needed. Same thing with bliss. The happiness idea would seem so far away on the emotional level that you're not even bothered to think about it. So bliss is a much more real deal. So that brings us to realize that happiness relates to the lower expressions, lower qualities, circumstantial, but it is still beautiful. You can be self realized and you can have more happy moments, better days than others, more happy moments, more special occasions. Yes, indeed, circumstances change and there are some more beautiful days than others, but at the bottom of your being, self, you celebrate every day. You are okay with the happy days and you're okay with the difficult ones too. Thus, again, contentment is a very integrated quality of self realization because that allows to be okay with whatever comes, whatever goes. When happiness comes, you enjoy it, but you don't grab onto it, you don't hold onto it, you don't start crying when it starts going away. So, contentment, indifference, equanimity are very synonymous terms in yogic qualities to indicate that there is a certain transcendence certain non-dual integration, to see everything with a deeper sense. There are also various degrees of that as well. We may say the deepest degree when a yogi is sitting under the tree and is not bothered by anything in the world, but that is not as practical. And therefore, any quality, we cannot put it forward too much, because too much of something, like eating too much honey, also turns your belly upside down. Even though honey is wonderful, delicious, healthy, but too much of it is not good either. So too much of even healthy things needs to be balanced. So that relates to any qualities, even transcendent qualities. So some yogis do focus explicitly on indifference, equanimity, contentment, but then they become dysfunctional, too much disassociated, and thus they lose a sense of being present, being of service, because at the end of the day, God is all. And if one is too much drawn in certain direction, then one becomes not God anymore. One becomes a practitioner. So if a yogi needs to balance himself, herself, to overcome attachments, graspings, desires, then it is okay to sit under the tree as a conscious practice to become indifferent, to become desireless. So, with that purpose as a practice, as a cycle to work through, it's okay. But the self, God, doesn't need to practice so much anymore, we may say, because God or self is here as everything, is here to enjoy itself, himself, herself through this form. Now, what we truly should look for in self realization, first of all, realizing who you really are, who you really are, beyond a single doubt. And then instantly reflecting upon, if you cannot feel it right now, that's not a problem, because there is energy present. Your energetic system is present here, and it has some work to do. Refinement, integration, it has to do. So the energy system is here to infinitely integrate, advance, evolve. And that is the nature of your vehicles of consciousness. So if we truly accept that, again, without a hope that one day everything is going to be fine, the same hope can function at any higher level, that one day I will be absolutely balanced and not a single disharmony or unbalance will come to me. Nothing will affect my energy system. says a foolish hope. So it still functions at many spiritual levels. While what truly happens is advancement, evolution, with all the ups and downs in between, and your capacity grows. That's what's really happens. So we need to become more aware of these mechanisms of hopes because they are preventing you to accept what is here and thus move on. The hope keeps you going in a loop, and it actually prevents you to grow further, deeper. Hope is needed at emotional level. When the circumstances are very difficult, hope is okay. It's good to have a hope. But speaking about more advanced spirituality, hope is not your friend because it prevents you from growing further. It prevents you from accepting the present. It keeps you in the fantasy, in the idea, belief, thought. What we should look for is a continuous advancement of your energy system, vehicles of consciousness, continuous integration. That's what happens for real. We should understand that qualities are energetic advancements. Contentment is important quality. Indifference, equanimity is important quality. But it's not the only quality because love is also important. It brings us to the lotus feet of the Lord. Love merges one into the heart of the self. In love, there are no two. Bliss as well is the luminosity, the ever present radiance of consciousness, self, source,